Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to MindBridge. I am Paulette, and today we'll be hosting a special guest speaker session. We are joined by Ahana, a 10th grade student who is passionate about productivity, study habits, and mental health. Ahana, thank you so much for being here today. So, to start off, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, both academically and just a person?
Yeah, sure. So, if you guys didn't already, I'm Ahana. I'm actually a grade 10 student here in Canada. And academically, I would say that I'm really interested in pharmacy and psychology. I feel like these are two of my best interests. And I like coming up with good study strategies, productivity, and improving mental health in my community because I have learned how much mindset affects school success, and I'm happy to talk about this subject in this podcast. And as for myself, I would say that I am I am more of an athlete than more of like a student. So because I am on like a few different teams, like sports teams in school, such as basketball and swimming. And yeah, that's about a good introduction to myself.
Yes, so you mentioned you're exploring career pathways right now. What has
Mhm.
been the process? What has the process been like for you?
So the process for me recently, like going to career paths, is that like I did not look much into it yet, but I have looked into like what's beneficial like for me, like in key traits and like my best interests. Like an example would be in pharmacy. I love the environment that they have. It ties into many of my like explored and favorite subjects. I would say biology and chemistry. And like for career paths, like specifically for that, I would say an example for anyone who is looking for a good job or career, I would say follow your best interests and passions because that's what I'm doing right now at the moment. And look at what are some strengths or differences or possibly even conflicts that it may affect you. But that's like the pattern I'm going with right now, and that's my progress, finding my own suitable career.
Yeah, I think I like the idea of you checking, like looking at the differences or like a conflict you might potentially face. I think that's kind of a good way of looking at it too.
Okay.
So when did you start caring about productivity and studying habits? Was there a specific moment?
Um, I would say that there were some moments that when I was studying, I did not really enjoy it that much. I can say it from the bottom of my heart. And yeah, I would say these are moments that you can feel demotivated or sometimes it's too much to worry about. So maybe some tips that I have learned when I was studying is that make like the goal that you're supposed to take super small. This is like basically just studying for even 5 minutes because that's basically starting to study is like the hardest part. And how I remember like this information long term is that I reviewed I read everything like over several days because like cramming it last minute I always see it's a terrible thing. So I would say it could be like 10 to 15 minutes every day. It's like short sessions like work better instead of just cramming it.
Yeah, I also think the like studying, like you said, not just like maybe probably like an hour or two with just studying, but taking it in like short bits, and because that way you're able to remember what you also studied. I think I also like that idea as well. So let's talk about study tips and productivity. We're already on that topic. What's your go-to study like method? I know you mentioned taking short studying, but what are other study methods you think you need to understand something deeply? Like, how would you go about it?
So are you looking for my go-to study method?
Yeah.
Okay. In my opinion, like coming from experience, I would say active recall is the best way when you're like studying like biology or chemistry because it's like the way it works is like you're testing yourself instead of like rereading your notes like every single time. I've figured it doesn't retain the information that much. I mean, it starts off hard, but later on, if you get used to it, any method would really, it gets more effective. And I think it happens in the long run is basically like I'm tying into my other method, like raspberry recall. Make your test, like you're testing yourself, just start it off, see how it goes. And if you feel like if it feels really hard, just just break it into like parts, like 5 minutes after recall, then you can just reread it. Don't reread again, just like take a break, then do do another section active recall. It's like my go-to study method in summary is like active recall plus like break, like Pomodoro, if anyone knows what it means. So that's really how I go when studying subjects.
Yeah. When you also speaking, I was also thinking with the active recall, taking breaks are very important because if you like study like for a long period of time without taking breaks, you can sometimes, forget about what you studied and just remember maybe just a small bit of it. So I feel like also taking breaks also is also important. So a lot of students struggle with procrastination. How do you deal with their distractions?
Okay, so for procrastination, I want to like confess something. I procrastinate a ton. So it's like, yeah, everyone procrastinates, and I relate to that so hard. And it usually happens when I like feel really overwhelmed. So like I'm going back to my study habit, I make the task smaller, and I just
Mm-hmm.
tell myself that I only need to start my task, right? Not finish it. That's a good way of thinking it. And once I start something, it's much easier to keep going. That's how I beat procrastination in a way.
Yeah. I also feel like what I'm about to say might sound like cliche, but I also feel like putting all like distractions away, it's really helpful, at least for me, because I also deal with procrastination. And I feel like when I put my mind to it that I want to steadily stick maybe for an hour or maybe 2 hours, I just put everything away, all distractions, close all my tabs that might be distracting, and I just focus on what I'm doing. I feel like is also very helpful, just taking away all distractions too.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So, how do you structure your study sessions? Do you, I know you mentioned with the time blocks and breaks, but maybe could you add on to anything? And also for students preparing for like big exams like SAT, what advice would you give to them?
So if you're like having like any big exams or like big tests, like what I'm studying for the SAT right now, my biggest advice is not don't look at the SAT as it's like life threatening because like I've always seen that most of my friends they get burnout just by looking at the SAT and just looking at the practice questions. So I would say that just you can ask for help definitely. I feel like asking for help is a really good strength because many peers or teachers really want to support you in something like this. And it's just one part of the process and it's not something that defines my worth or intelligence. So when you're starting off with like any big test, I would say go with a practice test, like one or two. It basically like shows you like the patterns and like the timing. It doesn't have to be like 10 practices, like two or three works. And it just helps more like identifying patterns and just studying the content. That basically relieves the anxiety with big tests like the SAT.
Yeah, and also on the note of the SAT, I would say your teachers are very important. If you have like any questions, maybe math, your math teacher or English teacher, just go to your teachers. Your your teachers are there to help you, and your math teacher, English teacher, or any teacher you think they might help you, just see them, talk to them. They also, I think, it's also a good way to help relieve stress when you probably don't understand anything you're studying. Essay writing can be really stressful, especially structuring and paraphrasing. What tips would you give to someone who feels stuck?
Oh, okay. So when you're writing something, I would say that follow like a structure in how you're going to write a paragraph slash essay. So like the pattern I usually go with is I start with writing a good outline. I feel like that helps mainly because it can help you structure your informations similar to like debate. You can like structure your information and you can like pick out like some topics that correlate to your thesis because I feel like yeah, I'm just going in like structures. So a thesis is really good if you're like starting like a subheaded opinion paragraph, which is basically one paragraph essay, and it's a 5 paragraph essay which has another thesis to it. Finding that specific topic can help you um, organize your outline, and then after that, I feel like writing paragraph by paragraph is good because it allows you to structure your essay. Like, let's say you have 3 points, right? One point can be for like each paragraph. You can just and and a big mistake I usually have or big issue is I write a lot and it's basically for word word limits. So for that, I would say, yeah, I would say like be concise with your wording. That basically helps with the word limit. And just, it's okay. Just go on like with your like topic. Really shows that you care about this topic and you're like interested about it. For word limits, I would just say be concise about it. Those are like some advice I would give for people who are starting to write essays or like paragraphs. But but like if you really need help for like grammatical errors or like helping to like give more nuance or like um sorry information for your topic, it's better to ask your peers or your English teacher for like advice on these.
Okay, so yeah, I agree with what you're saying with like reaching out to your teachers, but I wanted to ask, um, okay, so how do you stay consistent when your motivation drops? And do you use any specific tools or apps to help you stay organized?
Okay. Okay, so when I have like an issue on being consistent, I would say that my mindset on consistency is that isn't about doing everything. It's about doing like important things first and yeah, it's about doing important things like consistently, as you said. So how I stay focused during productivity slash consistency is that I like short focused work sessions with like time blocks or breaks because I mean I could speak for myself. Long sessions usually make me tired really fast. So some apps that really help with productivity and consistency is I love using Notion. It helps me like plan out any deadlines slash work work I have to finish. And like I'm not sure if my if others have it, but like apps that block distractions is really good. Or just like distraction, like putting your phone farther away or just blocking out from like outdoor noises. It really like not only does it give you like really short goals, but it helps you like stay attentive to your consistency. Those are like some advice I would give for anyone who's struggling with consistency because I had that same issue before.
Yeah, I would agree on that too. Um, how do you take care of your mental health when while staying productive?
I would say that mental health is important while staying consistent because, like, to start off, mental health is really important for everyone, like, including my peers. I can speak for everyone because I would say with having a really poor mental health, your brain cannot perform well, like, even if you're exhausted or overwhelmed. And I would say for myself, mental health and grades are connected. So how do I handle this? Is like I try to balance work with like rest. Everyone should do that. Do not overexhaust yourself. That's like don't do this. And like remind myself that breaks help me come back stronger. Because like I'm in like a few clubs. I would say HOSA, FBLA, and also like with having tons of work at school. And like that probably leads to burnout in some points. But in the end, you have rest. You can like balance it out with all this work, and and you can move at your own pace. Like just because you feel behind doesn't mean you're failing.
How would you handle academic or social like pressure?
I would say, when handling with academic and social pressure, I would, um, I mean, the only answer I would say is that focus on yourself, since because I've seen like many of my friends like compare themselves to like others who are like achieved in life, achieved because like they think so, or like they're really good in academics, like having like 100s in like every single class. So that I also used to do the same, but then I realized maybe focusing on others isn't going to help me win the race, but focusing on myself is makes me sound more natural and more confident. So I would say one answer I would say just focus on yourself. Figure out what is troubling you. What is making you not stand up from anyone else. And following that, I feel like I have achieved more than just comparing myself to others. And I build good study habits as I was saying earlier. And yeah, that's basically one answer I would give when handling this much.
Yeah, I would also agree with the comparison. I feel when you compare yourself to people, usually we don't see the other aspects of what people like present to us. For example, on social media, people choose to present what they like want people to see. So you are just seeing, let's say, maybe 1% of just 2% of their lives. So compare yourself to what they decide to show you. So for, let's say the 2%, so the rest of the 98%, so that means you don't know like anything that of the whole 98%. So my whole point is that comparison is really, example on social media is really not healthy because you are just seeing what people present to you. And I think that's really helped me a lot not to compare myself to others. Okay, so what would you say to students who feel guilty when they take breaks? Because I know it can be really hard to when you see other people, like others are studying and you are probably just taking breaks. What's your take on it?
You don't have to. It's like if you really need to take a break, go on and take it. But that doesn't mean that you're falling behind or like you're failing anything. If you really need a break and you feel like you're guilty, then I would say take the break and without it, don't stress about being perfect. Just after that, you can just focus on improving little by little if you feel that you're falling behind. Because that happened to me as well. Just like seeing everyone being ahead of me while I'm just taking some breaks at time by time. I mean, if I really need to take a break, that's fine. And after that, just I just focus on improving myself.
Yeah, I think that's like a good advice. What does success mean to you right now?
Success to me. Well, I'm still looking for success, but right now, I would say as a grade 10 student, I am having relatively very good academics. I'm doing well in my sport. I recently had my swim meet recently, and we did really good on that. It's very successful, and I feel like I have improved on my social life. I've met like very good friends as well in my school, and I have contributed a lot to my community. So that's about it for now.
Where can students start tomorrow if they decide to improve their productivity and mental health?
Yeah, that's totally great. My advice would be that start small, be consistent, and while you're just handling having an academic life, a social life, extracurriculars, and all that, yeah, that's great. Be kind to yourself. Success isn't like about being perfect. It literally just means growing. Like build relationships and social life because it doesn't come overnight. It happens year of like months by just having like one friend that's becomes really close to you. Make attachments to like academics and like extracurriculars because all these aspects have one thing common and that's basically like improving and growing because none of this happens overnight. So I would say, in summarizing, you can start small, be consistent, and while you're doing that, just be kind to yourself.
Okay. So I believe we have about less than 5 minutes left, so I'd like to end it off here. Thank you so much, Ahana, for sharing your insights and just being open with us. And thank you to everyone who is watching right now with who joined today's session. We hope you are walking away with something, at least one tip you can apply to your week.
See you.
Thanks, Ahana. Bye.
Bye, you're welcome.